Hello, you're watching TVP World News. I'm Jan Śrowiński. Ukraine is launching what it has dubbed the Energy Ramstein initiative, named after the international military support group. The aim of the project is to help tackle the widespread shortfalls in power and heating caused by Russian attacks on the country's infrastructure. Prime Minister Yulia Sviridenko has instructed the Ministry of Energy to convene a body dedicated to developing additional energy support from Kyiv's international backers, according to a Facebook post by Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha. Many European countries are already making contributions to the Ukraine Energy Support Fund. The United Kingdom on Friday announced additional emergency funding of $27 million to repair, restore and protect Ukraine's power grid. President Volodymyr Zelensky on Wednesday declared a state of emergency following sustained attacks on the country's power infrastructure, which have left thousands without heat and/or power as nighttime temperatures approach -20 Celsius. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk said that the US taking over Greenland would be the end of the world as we know it. This comes as Warsaw announced it will not be sending its soldiers to the autonomous territory of Denmark, while several European countries are deploying troops there amid tensions between Europe and Washington.
Danish troops disembark in Greenland. They're being deployed to boost security on the Arctic island. They'll be joined by brothers in arms from Finland, Sweden, Norway, Germany and France, who have rallied in the face of threats by US President Donald Trump to take control of the Danish territory by force. France's foreign minister says NATO's European allies
are completely capable of defending their territory against any threat, wherever it may come from.
Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk says Poland will not be sending soldiers to Greenland. He was explicit about the consequences of American military action over the Danish territory.
A conflict or an attempt to take over the territory of a country that is a NATO member by another NATO member, and what's more, if it's the United States, that would be the end of the world as we know it.
And what's emerging as a crisis for Europe, a forced US takeover of Greenland, is not backed in the States. A Reuters poll found only 4% of Americans said it would be a good idea to use military might. US Senator Mitch McConnell warned that military action would incinerate the trust of allies.
And until the president can demonstrate otherwise, then the proposition at hand today is pretty straightforward. Incinerating the hard-won trust of loyal allies in exchange for no meaningful change.
Analysts agree there's no benefit to America acquiring control of Greenland.
You have the Danish, the Greenlandic, the European side, and I suspect many people in the US system who understand perfectly well that there's no geostrategic, military or economic reason for this. And then you have President Trump on the other side.
After a crunch White House summit on Wednesday between the Danish and Greenlandic foreign ministers, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Vice President J.D. Vance, Donald Trump repeated his demands over Greenland on the grounds of national security. But this time appeared to soften his position, possibly suggesting a deal could be done.
I have a very good relationship with Denmark, and we'll see how it all works out. I think something will work out. Yep.
Copenhagen and Washington have now agreed to form a working group to discuss concerns about the island. John Todd for TVP World.
Speaking to TVP World, senior fellow at the Atlantic Council Jan Brzezinski delivered remarks on Trump's push towards acquisition of Greenland. In his comments, the foreign policy expert claimed that Trump's current actions form a radical shift, undermining decades of established US foreign policy.
Trump's national security policy, that is a break from 8 decades of US national security policy, is that this administration, this president does not believe the United States has vital interests in Europe worth defending with the lives of our soldiers. The same applies for the Indo-Pacific. And with that comes a break from a second corollary of American national security policy, and that is the belief in the need to defend forward U.S. interests through the deployment of U.S. forces, robust deployments of U.S. forces abroad, in Europe, in Japan, in Korea. So we're seeing a retraction from those two enduring principles.
Heightened tensions in the Middle East have prompted the U.S. military to redirect a carrier strike group from the South China Sea to the region and to take diplomatic precautions as regional powers prepare for the possibility of an escalation involving Iran. The carrier strike group is expected to arrive in the Middle East in approximately 1 week, according to multiple reports released on Wednesday. Tensions in the region led to significant diplomatic measures, with the British Foreign Office confirming on Wednesday the temporary closure of its embassy in Tehran and a shift to remote operations. On the same day, Spain's foreign ministry issued an urgent advisory recommending all Spanish citizens currently in Iran to leave the country as soon as possible. Multiple airlines have altered normal operations by rerouting flights to avoid Iranian and Iraqi airspace and restricting services to Tel Aviv and Amman. Poland has summoned Iran's ambassador amid escalating unrest in the Islamic Republic, citing grave concerns over Tehran's response to nationwide protests. Warsaw urged Iranian authorities to halt the use of force against demonstrators and to pursue dialogue, warning that the rising number of deaths and arrests is deeply alarming.
Based on its own historical experience, Poland is certain that violence against freedom of speech, association, or peaceful demonstrations is unacceptable and is not an effective means of achieving political goals. Recognizing the value of the special historical Polish-Iranian relationship, Poland hopes for dialogue between the Iranian authorities and the protesters to begin as soon as possible.
US President Donald Trump has received the Nobel Peace Prize, except not in the way many have expected. Venezuela's opposition leader Maria Corina Machado presented her prize to Donald Trump during a meeting at the White House. Trump hosted the Nobel Peace Prize laureate Machado despite having already dismissed her credibility to run Venezuela following a US military raid that seized the then-president Nicolás Maduro. Trump later thanked Machado in a social media post. Speaking to reporters, Machado cited Simón Bolívar, the South American fighter who led the struggle for freedom against the Spanish 2 centuries ago. She said her gift was in recognition of Trump's commitment to freedom. The National Bank of Poland is going to ramp up its investments in gold. When the purchases, which have just been announced for 2026, are completed, Poland will be among 10 countries in the world with the largest gold reserves.
As gold prices reach a historic high, the National Bank of Poland, the world's leading buyer of gold among central banks last year, is set to continue its spending spree.
I intend to submit a motion to the Management Board of the National Bank of Poland to adopt a resolution increasing our country's gold reserves to 700 tons.
Valued at $76.5 billion, the National Bank of Poland currently holds the 12th largest gold reserves in the world. If the governor's plan is implemented, Poland would advance into the global top 10. Expanding national gold reserves has become Governor Adam Glapiński's hallmark policy. Since he took the helm of the central bank in 2016, Poland's gold holdings have risen more than 5-fold. He claims the move, which contributed to the rise in value of the reserves, has been an important factor in ensuring the stability of the Polish złoty.
Our total reserve assets, gold and foreign currency, now stand at 976.5 billion zloty, or $269 billion, placing us among the world's top 20 central banks. Given our geographic position, economic conditions, and our own national currency, the złoty, this framework provides strong support for the currency, whose stability remains firm and unquestioned.
Strong demand from central banks and investors has driven the price of gold up to record levels. On Wednesday, the value of the bullion peaked at $4,641 per ounce.
AI-generated images are fueling a new wave of online marketplace scams, hitting sellers on platforms like Vinted. Most recently, fraudsters have taken to using fake damage photos to claim refunds for problems that never existed.
You're a seller on Vinted and you use AI to make your items appear more professional, more attractive to your potential buyers.
I'll simply take a photo with my smartphone and ask him to edit the image so that this shirt looks perfect.
But once you send your item in perfectly acceptable condition out for delivery, you receive a message saying the item arrived damaged and there is an attached photo of alleged damage. Well, this may not always be true.
Stop scrolling! Scammers are now faking rips and stains on your Vinted clothes using AI. They edit photos to make the item look destroyed, then claim a refund and keep the item. Take photos and videos before shipping, keep chats in the app and report dodgy buyers. Stay sharp and share this so no one else gets scammed.
Vinted is currently one of the most popular online selling platforms in Poland, and fraudsters are using fake photos and videos to get their money back from e-commerce sites.
Here you can clearly see that there are wrinkles, small flaws, so that's believable. But on the other hand, it's really what's around the item, the skin, the hair, everything is too perfect.
One user described a surprising situation she encountered after sending in a sold item. It turns out the buyer used AI to extort money.
I received a message saying there's a dispute because the boot was damaged down its middle. I'm sorry, but the photo looked suspicious to me, so I asked the buyer for more pictures. I asked her to return the boots and requested a return label. After I sent the label, she wrote that her mother had thrown the boots away.
Online shopping platforms have long depended on photos submitted by customers to confirm that refund requests are legitimate, but generative AI is now starting to break the system. Forter, a New York-based fraud detection company, estimates that AI-doctored images used in refund claims have increased by more than 15% since 2025 and continues to rise globally. Experts say that organized crime groups are using the same tactics to orchestrate refund fraud, just at a higher scale. In one Forter-documented case, scammers submitted over $1 million worth of refund claims using AI-altered images. The requests were submitted in a tight time window, seemingly to overwhelm the system. So, next time you sell an item from an online shopping platform, watch out for AI damage scams and document your products.
Australian Open favourites, including Aryna Sabalenka and Coco Gauff, trained in Melbourne on Friday ahead of the tournament's opening matches on Sunday. While the women's game has been more open than the men's in recent years, the trio of Sabalenka, Gauff and Poland's Iga Świątek sparked a shift in momentum by sweeping 9 of the last 12 Grand Slams. Sabalenka will head to Melbourne bidding for her third Australian Open crown. World number 2, Świątek, arrives in Melbourne on a high, fresh from leading Poland to victory in the United Cup last week, in which the Poles defeated Switzerland 2-1 in the final. A rather unexpected incident took place in the Polish city of Olsztyn on Wednesday. A herd of wild boars barged onto the tram tracks and refused to move, effectively paralyzing 2 lines for nearly half an hour.
The herd, tightly huddled together in the middle of the track, was quite determined not to budge. The boars were eventually persuaded to move, and the service resumed shortly after. No one was hurt in the incident, but local authorities warn residents not to interact with any boars found wandering around the city.
And that's all for now. Thank you for watching, and please stay with us here on TVP World.